Pool 3.
Pool 3.
Which we'll get up now is...
Yes, Sarries, Glasgow, Cardiff and Leon on 18, 14, 4 and 0 points respectively. So yes, in the context of my contenders list, there are only 2 in this group, and they are Sarries and Glasgow.
Yes.
Cardiff are a lovely team. I actually think they're like what you were talking about, Gloucester. I think Cardiff are a surprisingly competent outfit as well, and don't normally get the credit for that. Sure, even some of the tries they scored against Sarries were great. They were in a game there, and they were 18 all at like 45 minutes, and then threw an intercept try, and then the floodgates opened.
They're all techers. You know, all techers. That's their first priority every time. So they've got that whole Kiwi like 3/4 line, 10, 12, 13. I know Anscombe is Welsh, but they're all Kiwis, and that's how they play the game. And it's all about lovely tries. They scored that Challenge Cup final last year. That was something else.
It was a class game.
And they're full of those class games. But Glasgow mounted the won against them and mounted the Pro 14 challenge. And have since derailed since the last Challenge Cup game, since they had that double header against Leon where they
Champions Cup game.
What did I say?
Challenge.
Oh, sorry. Champions Cup game, where they won the double header against Leon unconvincingly, but they did the job. They've now lost home and away to Edinburgh, and been firmly booted. And you are not the best team in Scotland, so say Edinburgh. And fair enough, they got beat thoroughly and hollowly out the gate, home and away. And just last week went and lost to Benetton away from home.
They did.
They're exposing some weaknesses that I saw earlier in the season. The halfback combination of Ali Price and Hastings is pretty poor, like for a side that wants to contend in anything.
They're even more than in seasons gone by. They're just whipping it wide with reckless abandonment, because they just don't back their forwards to get the job done.
Outside of the man who deserves the great shout out is loosehead Ollie Keble, who's a monster who gets through a load of work, who I love watching play. But other than that, their pack just don't. Even Johnny Gray, they just don't make enough plays. They routinely get beaten up. That's sort of what happened to them, I think, against Saracens, and it certainly happened to them home and away against Edinburgh.
Silver linings: when those 2 Horn brothers are on the pitch, they're normally good for these great little chip and chase tries.
That's true. Listen, they got tries for days. They got Stewie Hogg and Tommy Seymour. And listen, when they get on a roll, they can score. That's how they beat Cardiff. I mean, they just outplayed them, and they still have that in them, we assume. But form-wise, they're off a cliff, and they got to beat Cardiff this week. Otherwise, I think they're probably done.
If they don't, that probably will be done. Can they go to Sarries and get a result?
No, it doesn't look likely. Saracens themselves had a couple of stumbling blocks recently.
They have,
but they're actually rotating their squad.
They were. I think Glasgow were one of the big losers from that storm that I was talking about on the second weekend of those double headers, because they didn't get their bonus point in Kingsholm against Leon, and that was
in Kingsholm.
No, not in Kingsholm.
In Leon.
In Scotland.
Sorry, 21-10 that game was.
And in the first half it looked all set. Felt like Leon not at the races, Glasgow much better, but then the heavens did open, and they just couldn't string it together enough to get the bonus point, and that's left them in a pretty precarious position as far as even second place qualifications concerned, and where they're going to have to go. Like, in the context of their group, the Sarries kind of won that was it the first weekend? When they went up to Scotstoun, got the job done against them in impressive fashion. And
Sarries to me look like a side that's actually consciously making an effort to time their season right. They went on such a run early doors, and now they're sort of resting a Toji a bit, and sort of trying to ease Billy V back, and just trying to
get all their weapons
trying to get everything in order, making sure that things don't derail April time. And fair enough, but for me, they will. Like, I still have such respect for them. I have such respect for Mark McCall. I have such respect for Owen Farrell and Alex Good and Brad. But I think, like, as you all know at this stage, I think that's what the English team should be based on. Everything that Saracens do, and I just would back them to do Glasgow when push comes to shove. So Glasgow, you got to be thinking, and I actually don't know the connotations of this. There are nerdier people than I who are looking at the connotations with such gusto. It's where rugby and maths collide in such a way that anyone who loves both just goes head first into it. But it for me, it's just I never really look at the connotations that much. I'm too busy looking at the games. But Glasgow have to be, I think, as much as it's loser talk, I don't like loser talk usually, but I'm just looking at Glasgow losing all the time and think maybe they need to just have a realistic look at themselves and think, are we going to get even a point out of that Saracens game? Maybe we should be thinking about, is 18 points, a win against Cardiff at home, going to be enough, or do we need 4 tries? And do we need to start kicking corners immediately? But first port of call has to be win that game, because they haven't been winning any games since that game against Leon in the wind. So
it's an interesting place for them. They are still in contention, which last year they were unlucky. They were a better team last year, but they were in the pool of death and they were gone by Christmas, and it was unfortunate, because timing wise you felt like that was maybe the year they could have done something in the knockout stages. But now they've been shorn of their fin.
You know what? They just haven't got a forward pack to be anywhere near considering doing something in the knockout stages against the real big guns. Even Munster, they just haven't got a forward pack that can cope with what the big teams bring. Leinster, Munster, Racing, and Toulouse even, and of course Saracens. They just haven't got a forward pack that can compete. And like, their backline is very pretty, and Stuart Hogg certainly in his time was one of the best 15s in the world, and still capable of doing that. But
it's just not enough. It
adds up to some nice tries in a losing effort most of the time.
And occasionally those nice tries rack up enough of a score to win the game, and that's great.
They never replaced. They were never a better side than the side that won the Pro 14. They lost Leone Nakarawa and just never filled that hole with a baller of a player. Well, meanwhile Edinburgh have just been getting, their forward pack have just been getting more and more skilled and more and more physical, and have naturally overtaken them.
And it's been a slow enough progression, but it's kind of sad enough to see, because like there's only a few. It feels like pale imitations with Glasgow of old. Even like looking at Hastings in the 10 channel, he kind of looks a little like Finn sometimes when he's running the ball, but it's like too many floaty pass. Those last few weeks they're passing off the left hand. This has become a fucking theme of the season that has really annoyed me ever since we were watching that Rugby Tonight, the BT show, where they had Lima Subawanga.
That's right.
And I've been giving out about Lima Subawanga mainly because I actually enjoyed Sips at Wasps, enjoyed what Wasps were doing when Sips was there. Then they lost and brought in Lima Subawanga, who we've been used to watching from Super Rugby as well. Kind of don't like his floaty crossfield kicks that look good while they're in the air, and then they just stay in the air and get picked off. Any of this. But we've also just noticed he's like, when we played them in the 42-7 win that Leinster had in the first game of the season. 52-7 win, sorry. 42 was the Bath one. 52-7 win that we had. He threw a few hasty passes off the left into touch in the RDS. Then it was only a week later that he came in to the BT studio, and he had to. They were challenging him to like hit Ben Kay across the studio, and he lazily threw it off the left and threw it over his shoulder. He had to go, and so one of the guys in the crowd caught it, and it was like, Jesus Christ, this is an All Black who's been paid to come across the world and play Premiership Rugby, and it's like, you can't pass off the left. Same thing's been happening in Glasgow. They do whip their passes very quickly, but like, they've been throwing intercepts or loose passes into touch, which was how one of the games against Edinburgh ended, with a pathetic pass into touch that also had 2 intercepts off the left hand as well. We're just seeing that a lot this season in terms of spotting trends. Like, why are tens not being able to pass off the left hand?
It's a thing when you notice it, you can't miss it. Like, some players are worse, which is just worse when they're passing to their right hand side than when they're passing to their left hand side. And it is noticeable with some players more than others. Glasgow do need to try and throw those passes, those 50-50s. They need to rack up tries. It is how they win games. They need to run teams around,
which
get
does leave you susceptible to some of those low lights as well as the highlights.
Indeed. But you're right. There is a theme of that.
It's been shocking this year, and I'm just like, how for a professional 10 at all?
It's like when you see those soccer players who always try and get it, or even GA players, GA players who try and get it onto their right foot the whole time, and like, you can see the defender is giving them an easy shot with their left foot, and they just won't take it because they can't, and they're like, you're a pro. You're a pro. Come on, do it.
Take that on. Well, I suppose this is probably the luxury of being a Leinster fan, where you're just knowing that if you threw a pass like that, you're out of the academy. You're already dropped. You're gone. And it's like, that's a great luxury to have, but also at the same time, it's like, how can you get as far as that without being able to flick a pass off the left?
I don't know.
Pet peeves of mine. There'll be a list of them, and they're gonna keep recurring in this podcast. But that's definitely been one I've noticed this season. And Lima Subawanga, and also Scott Hastings of not Scott Hastings, isn't it?
It is Scott Hastings. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam was his dad.
No. It's Adam Hastings.
It's Adam Hastings. Scott was his dad. Yeah, that's why I knew I was wrong. But yes, Adam Hastings has been guilty of a few of those flicky passes, and he just as well. Their pack, is thoroughly depleted. So in the context of that pool, it is just going to be Sarries marching on, and likely with top seeding in the context of the whole tournament.
Top seeding or second seeding,
depending on behind Racing.
Yeah.